Today's podcast episode is sponsored by Koru Kids. Welcome back to the To Be a Boy podcast with me, Elliot Ray.
And me, Jolie Briley.
So today we are diving into a challenge that so many parents, teachers and mentors know all too well. Engaging boys as they enter those tricky teenage years. 1 minute they're chatty and open. The next it feels like you're losing them to silence and screens. I know this all too well. Growing up, I was that boy. So in this episode, we are joined by Richard Pomfrett, the founder of Boys to Men, an organization built on a powerful belief that every young person has the potential to become a role model. Through their tailored programs in primary and secondary schools, Boys to Men helps boys to navigate gender stereotypes, societal expectations, and the emotional challenges that often come with growing up. Richard will share tried and tested techniques for connecting with boys, building trust, and keeping communication alive, especially at the age when many adults start to feel shut out. So if you're a parent, a teacher, or mentor, or anyone who cares about raising good men, this is a conversation for you. Richard, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Really great to be here. And I'll just start off by saying I'm a big fan. I've been watching your show from day one. So that's,
You're a day one fan.
Super excited to be here.
Love that. Love that energy. So let's start with your journey then. How did you get into working with boys and young men and going into schools and doing your programs?
So it's been a bit of a journey, not the most traditional journey into working with schools or young people in schools. That journey started, I'm going to show my age now, over 25 years ago. And that was through working with young people through teaching martial arts. I used to be a martial arts instructor. And lots of people that I used to teach, the young people were boys. And then that led me into working with young people in schools. And I think probably now coming up to about 15 years, for the last 15 years, I've been working with young people directly in schools through an organization that I run called the Stay Safe Initiative. And we're a community interest company that supports young people in a few areas. We do lots of work and again, primary and secondary and higher education. We do lots of work with young people surrounding issues connected to bullying and helping them to have positive friendships and relationships. We deliver peer-to-peer mentoring training in schools with young people as well. And I also spend lots of time with young people, again, of all ages, exploring the digital world. So helping them to be safe from exploitation and other online harms, but also to help them have positive online lives and to thrive in that part of their world, the digital world. And the work that I now do, and I still do all that work, but the work that I now do specifically with boys through Boys to Men is really come off the back of that work with young people in schools. And that really started post-COVID when I was in schools talking to boys and young men about online influencer culture, tying in with the rise of people like Andrew Tate and others like that. It was through them conversations that really opened up to me, really on a personal level, that actually, you know, there's a little bit more going on with boys than just helping them to think critically about the online world, and they need support in lots of other areas. So I developed Boys to Men, and it's a program to help them think critically about that aspect of their life, the online world, but it's also to help them think about who they are. And it's about creating safe spaces for them to think about what kind of men they want to be. So yeah, that's a 25-year journey encapsulated into a few minutes.
Love that. And you said you're showing your age. You look young for your age. I'm guessing you're probably our age. So
I'm probably older than both of you. I'm gonna say I'm definitely.
You reckon?
Yeah, I'm in my 50s. I'm in my 50s.
You're in your 50s?
I am, yes.
No, you're lying.
I'm definitely not. 1973. You could do the maths.
It's all those
so that's 10 years.
martial arts. It's kept you young, Richard.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I've had a few broken noses along the way, but yeah, maybe it's a little bit of a healthy lifestyle.
So you said you speak to a lot of boys around the influences of the online world. How do you feel like the online world is influencing boys? What change have you seen, especially like maybe post-COVID?
I mean, boys have lots of challenges, and I think that's probably a good opportunity to start right at the start. Obviously, lots of them challenges, people assume they are connected to the online world. And that can sometimes make people think that everything connected to the online world is bad, and all the issues that young people are facing are connected to that part of their life. There is an influence there, obviously. And I think with boys, it's important to say that, all boys are different. They all have their own backstory. They will all have their own different concerns and individual concerns and challenges that will impact them. First of all, through conversations with boys, and this can actually be quite young, is having issues connected to their future. So pressure to succeed, be financially stable and secure, even having conversations with boys at a young age about how they're meant to buy a car, buy a house, even support a family one day. Many having that expectation that they need to play that provider role, for example. And again, even at a very young age, they're thinking.
What kind of age do you think they're thinking that?
They're thinking that from primary school. So
from primary school.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that comes up in primary school, and obviously it escalates as they get closer through secondary school and higher education. Again, that they're things that get talked about more. But yeah, they're talking about in primary school. Yeah, because we talk about the things that I do an activity with them, and it's about getting them to express what they like about being a boy, or what they think is to come about being a man, like the good bits. And with that, they always say, well, I'm looking forward to having a car. I'm looking forward to having a house. I'm looking forward to getting a good job and earning money. And that's all great. And we talk about that. But then the flip side of that question is, what do you think is quite difficult or quite hard? And there's usually two angles depending on their age to that. It's usually what do you find hard now? So pulling from their lived experience, and obviously the older they get, they'll have a little bit more lived experience. So what do you think are quite difficult being a boy or a young man in today's world? So we get to hear what they say, but also we get them to look into the future and, what do you think is difficult to come? So all them positive things they mentioned about having a car, getting a house, and, all of them things, again, that comes back into the conversation. Well, actually, that's really hard. How am I going to do that? How am I going to afford to have these things? How am I going to afford to support a family? And again, lots of them, even at that young age, when you unpick that with them, it's like, well, no, it's all down to me. They still feel that they need to be, not a provider and share an equal role. It's that stereotypical breadwinner. I've got to be the one to provide, and yeah, that comes early.
I find that so fascinating because in year 6, there's no way I was thinking about providing for a family. I'm like, football. I want the new football trainers. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When's the summer holidays coming? Because I want to go and ride my bike. Like, that was the extent of my problems. I was not thinking about providing for a family until I was probably after university, to be honest.
Yeah.
And in one way, I kind of feel like I have such mixed feelings because I feel like the school education system doesn't prepare young people, for the real world. So it's really good to be having conversations about the real world and money and taxes and work. That's really, really good. But on the flip side, it's quite sad as well. Very sad. Because can't we let children be children anymore? Like, can't we just let them not worry about big grown-up adult things that come with stress and pressure?
Yeah. I probably should apply a bit of context here. So I don't want your listeners to think that all young people, especially at that young age, these are things that are on their mind all the time. They're not. Most of them are thinking about the things that you mentioned earlier. What am I going to get for Christmas, or when am I going to get the new pair of Air Jordans, or whatever. And I need to get better at Fortnite. So these are things that they're not obviously on their mind all the time. But the reason why I share them is when you give them that opportunity and that space to have that thought process. And, because, obviously you want to help young people. We need to hear from them. We need to get to the bottom of what are these concerns. And it's at that time when they have that opportunity to actually think about it. They're the things that are coming up. So they're in there. But again, I don't want everyone to start thinking, oh, they're all panicking about it. It's just giving that opportunity to. That's when these come into the conversation, obviously.
I've got two boys who are 9 and 12, and the 12-year-old, I mean, they don't ever talk about anything like this, but I did once ask the 12-year-old if he wanted children ever, and he sat and he thought about it for a bit, and then he went, "I'll let the wife decide."
Yeah, I've done that 3 times.
And the answer was yes.
Yeah. The third one was it took me a while to say yes, but yeah, she got the answer in the end.
But it's funny, isn't it, that was the first thing that occurred to him. I just found that quite interesting, that it wasn't about his choice. He'd already thought, right, I need to get a wife, and then she'll make those decisions, and I'll make
She'll
these
tell me when.
decisions. And I thought that was such a traditional almost way of looking at things, when the rest of his life probably isn't very traditional. But and I guess there are more families in poverty than there ever have been before. So there are more kids that are seeing their parents struggle. So they're thinking, well, how on earth am I ever going to do it if my parents can't do it? So I guess it's kind of inevitable that kids worry about that.
And also, when we talked a little bit about the online world, and and again, this is exaggerated by what they see online as well. The people that they follow, when you look at the sort of like the hyper masculine images and portrayals of masculinity, that's all about tying like being a successful man to wealth and all of these things, then body image, all these things come up with young people, and that was something that we wasn't exposed to when we was young. So again, with them, it's not just about, oh, this is how you have to be a man. Again, it's all tied into, well, you've got to also fill these categories. You've got to be successful. You've got to earn money. You've got to provide. And again, that just adds this extra layer of pressure and in some cases confusion for young people. So like, how, that's something that they will say to me, how do I do it? How am I meant to do that? And that's a tricky conversation. But the good thing about having that conversation is you can then start to guide them. So, well, actually, do you need to do that?
Yeah.
You don't actually need to, you can take that pressure away.
The 666 phenomenon, like all of that, they aspire to it. It's 6-pack,
6-figure salary, 6 foot tall,
penis.
Oh yeah, that's the fourth one. So generally,
4 6s.
Oh, the 4 6s.
So that could be the 4. So the ones that come up that generally are, you've got to be 6 foot tall, or which I'm 5'11", so already I'm disqualified.
You're out.
So I'm not a man. You got to have a six-figure salary. Again, I'm disqualified there. And the last one, you got to have 6-pack abs. I've gone past that now, and I used to, but not anymore.
Have I made up the 6-inch?
So no, you haven't made it up. Sometimes that comes into the equation as well.
Okay, good.
Penis size may come into it, but generally it's then first read. But again, you can start to apply that to lots of other things. But we're making a joke about it. But it's these are the messages that they are consuming and thinking, well, how am I going to? And when you need the first two, the 6 foot tall and the 6-pack abs and all this sort of thing, I have young boys, in primary, then they haven't even reached puberty yet, and they're saying, body image is a big thing that comes into the conversation, and they're saying like, I'm not big enough. How am I going to be? Am I going to be big enough? And not in the pants department. We're talking muscles and physique, but it's like they haven't even developed into young adults yet, and they're thinking they've got to be, jacked and ripped, and it's like, wow, it's a concern. But
it makes me so sad, because also it just lacks context around a 6-figure salary is not necessarily going to make you happy. Being 6 foot tall, it might be nice, but it's not going to determine your outcomes and your happiness and your fulfillment in life. And it's just like, I get, you see online, you see these images, you see success as very material, monetary based things, but when you become an adult, you understand, of course, it's nice to have money. Everyone loves money. Great, cool. But that doesn't determine the quality of your life. And it's so good that, you can go into those schools and have conversations about wider things as well, with fulfillment and relationships and happiness and that sort of stuff. At the beginning of the podcast, in the introduction, I spoke about a lot of parents say their boys particularly seem to go away from them, withdraw from them a little bit, and especially when they reach teenage years, which I guess is kind of normal, has probably happened for generations, and maybe we shouldn't worry too much about it because that is a natural part of growing up. But I guess in previous generations, we didn't have all these external factors that those young boys and girls are turning to as alternatives. So what's your reflections on that tricky part of life? Do you think that's just normal when we shouldn't worry too much about it? Or do you feel like we should be trying harder than maybe previous generations to stay close?
I think the first part, I think it is quite normal. I mean, that's probably a question for like a child psychologist. I'm probably not the best person to answer it, but I'm a man, and I've got three. I was going to say children, but they're adults. So I've got three adults at home. Two of them are men. And
how old are they?
They're 24 and 21.
Okay.
My two boys, they're my oldest, and I've got a 16-year-old daughter. So I've certainly, I've lived that. I've experienced that myself, where they reach their teenage years and they start to separate. I think that's quite normal to some degree. When they get to that age, they're trying to work out who they are. They're trying to work out who they want to become, and they're starting to feel like they need to be a little bit more independent. And I think to feel like they're gaining that independence, they do naturally separate a little bit, which is, I think, quite normal. I think one thing that makes it a little bit more difficult now is that, again, the online world is a part of their life. So that can be an environment where parents feel completely shut out of the conversation. They're communicating online. And again, really important to say that is not always a dark place. That is can be a very positive part of their life. It's how they interact with their friends, gaming, communicating. That's really positive. But for a parent, that can make them feel like they're really pushed away from that area because they're not in there with them. So I think that adds an extra layer. Like, they're not even communicating with us. They're online all the time. What they're doing, they don't even want to talk to me. So I think it is normal, but that just means that we may just need to change our approach sometimes in how we get them to communicate with us and open up with us.
I would love to know more about that, just because, that my 12-year-old now has a phone and he's so addicted to it. And it's not that I'm worried about what he's doing online. I'm not, actually. I thought that's what I would be worried about. What I'm bothered about is he's just on it constantly. And, I drive him to rugby and he just sits on his phone and doesn't speak to me. He gets back. He's not joined any clubs at school. He stopped doing his clubs at school. He comes back and he just sits on his phone and he's so addicted to it. And I feel like he's missing out on doing other activities because he's on his phone. But also I feel like I'm missing out on opportunities to connect with him because he just, as soon as there's any boredom, like an advert on the TV, we're watching something, an advert comes up straight on his phone, like, I can't be bored for 1 single second. So I'd love you to talk a bit more about the communication element.
Yeah, so it is difficult. It is difficult with the parents, and as I said earlier, I do lots of work in this area as well. And one thing that question always comes up, it's like screen time. How much? What's the right amount of time? How do I get them off their phones? I think before I give you a few tips, I think it is important for parents that are going to be listening to this. I'm sure you have a large audience of parents. Is that when you are looking at screen time, I think it's important that you try not to fixate too much on the time. That's what lots of parents want. I generally advise that screen time is put into two areas: positive use and negative use. So a positive use of screen time could be a child on a screen, and they are, they look like they're just, on that screen doing nothing, but they could be communicating with someone. They could be communicating with a friend. They're essentially socializing, but the only reason they're doing it on a screen is because that friend's not in the room with them. Yeah. They could be watching something that is connected to like a hobby or an interest. And again, there's a drive there, a positive drive there. So that they would be sort of classed as positive uses. They're gaining something. It's hard for a parent to always see that they're gaining something, but they individually are. You have the negative sides as well, just like doom scrolling and just like that I can't put it down. Children, that's one thing. Children find it quite hard to regulate their time on devices. Yeah. That's where the parents come in. And that's where the communication comes in. It's talking to them about that. It's talking to them about having that healthy relationship with screens. finding out what they are doing. Is it a positive use, or are you just wasting your time? Could that time be spent differently? So they're the kind of conversations that I recommend. And to open up them conversations, and this is really for parents, anyone that really works or spends time with young people, I'm going to share my magic recipe with you. Is that okay?
Let's do it. Yeah, looking forward to this.
So my magic recipe.
Let's go.
So again, this is like what I found works for me. Everything I'm going to say from this point onwards is what, it's not the only way. Absolutely. Everyone's different. Everyone has different approaches. But these are the three things that I promote to anyone that wants to engage with a young person. So they're split into these three: be open, be positive, and be curious. So if we want young people to engage with us, that could be your child at home, that could be someone in a classroom, it could be your, a sports coach, whatever it is. If we want young people to open up to us about their lives, first of all, we need to make them know and feel that we are safe people to do that. Now, obviously, from a parent's perspective, they know that you're safe, but we want to make them realize that we are safe people to have conversations with them. We are here to support and help them. We're not here to judge them or tell them how to live their life. So how we approach that is important. So the first one, be open. Be open to having conversations with them. Also be open to looking at life from their perspective. Be open to listening to their views and opinions. So like for screen time, for example, be open to having conversations about it. Be open to asking them what they think is a healthy amount of time to be online, not just telling them what you want them, because that just shuts the conversation down. It's about like talking about healthy boundaries and creating like a framework that we can move forward on. What would be the best use of our time? What do you think? Bringing them into the conversation is really important, because when a young person feels like, oh, actually, you care what I say, they'll be willing to share. Now, you may be like you just mentioned, Jolie, screen time. You may think, well, maybe like an hour or two, like spread throughout the day may be okay, but they may say 10 hours. So you're in this place, but by having that conversation, you can then start to be open to, well, actually, do you think that's the most healthiest approach? And be open to listen to them is important at that point. So always be open to have these conversations. Also be open to hearing things that you didn't really want to hear. That's important as well. Because again, you've got to have a starting point. So the next one is be positive. So when I work with young people, even if I'm having a conversation at home, always try to, one, steer the conversation into the positive areas, but also focus on the positives. So for example, if I'm working with some young people in schools and the online world comes into the conversation, and we know at some point we're going to talk about the harmful part of the online world, the Andrew Tates of this world and things like that, the misogyny, the things that we want to really educate young people and help them think critically on. If we jump straight into they're going to instantly think, oh, I see where this is going, and they're going to want to shut that conversation down. So I always start with the positives. So that could be like, what do you like about this part of your life? Like I said earlier, what are the good bits and what are the hardest bits? So what do you like about being on your phone? What do you like about social media? What do you like about being a boy? What are the good parts? And the reason why that's important, it's a lot easier conversation for them. They love telling you about all the good bits. But it also lays down that foundation, because then it allows you to talk about, well, actually, okay, how do we gain from that? So what do you like about being on your phone? Well, I like this, this, and this. Okay, so let's make sure you gain from all them things. But we also need to talk about some of the opposites. Like if you spend too much time, that could be harmful. That could prevent you from doing other stuff. Or you like being on social media, but what if you see something that upsets you or concerns you? Or let's help you, educate you on that side. So starting with the positives allows us to address the more concerning things and have them more open discussions later on. Plus, if you hear something that's negative, again, okay, well, how can we turn that into a positive? So it's always trying to steer that conversation into positive areas so they can relate to it. Oh, this is actually going to be helpful to me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think this is really great, actually. It sounds really simple, but it's actually can be, it's really challenging to do in the time. But
It
thinking
is.
about it like that really helps reframe it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And this ties into the last one. So the last one is being curious. So we've got be open, be positive, be curious. Being curious, I would say, at the three is probably the most helpful. Certainly when you are trying to dig a bit deeper. Certainly if you don't know that child. So that's something I have to do a lot because I walk into a room of boys, I've never met them before. So being curious is really important. Having an interest, hearing what they have to say, asking questions. So tell me about it. What do you like about this game? What do you like about that phone? What do you like about that person you follow on the internet? Being curious is so important because if we want to help young people, we need to understand them. We need to understand their thought process. And that's so important. Like when I work with young people, I make it clear. We talked about this earlier. I'm a dinosaur compared to them. I'm a lot older than them. I was a young person once. I work with young people. I feel that I relate to them. I have lots of interests similar to young people. I like martial arts. I like lots of the music they listen to. I feel like on a personal level, I can relate to them. I got my own young people at home, but I'm not a young person. And I make it really clear to them that, look, I am not going to sit here today or for the next few days, and I'm not going to pretend I know what it's like to be a young person today. I have my own set of experiences and I have my own journey and life experience, and I'm going to use that to try and guide you. But I need you to educate me. I want you to tell me about your life. I want you to tell me about the things that you find that you like. I want you to tell me about the things that you struggle with. I want you to tell me about the things that keep you up at night. I want you to tell me about the things that put you under pressure, because that way I can now guide you. It's not about telling you what to do. It's not about telling you how to be a man. But there's no one way to be a man. It's about me guiding you into think about what kind of man you want to be. And I can't do that unless I understand you. So being curious is so important, asking questions, because that gives them the opportunity to feel heard and to feel listened to. And then that's now you've now got a starting point to have these conversations with them. I
think that this is so important because I think as you said, Jolie, sometimes we know these things, but in the moment when you're just frustrated that your kid's distracted, it's quite hard to actually put it into practice. And when I think about when I have done it, so my eldest watches these YouTube families that just like really rich in Hollywood, they've got massive mansions, they build I'm building a 7-Eleven in my bedroom today, obviously. And a slide down the stairs, like literally this is what they do. And she'll watch it, and then Nen Fam is one of the big ones she watches. And when I actually ask her about who's that, who are they, sisters, or what are they doing? And she looks at me like really surprised, like, I'm actually interested in what she's watching. So I definitely see how that helps build a bridge. Today's podcast episode is sponsored by Koru Kids.
When my kids were younger, I never considered getting a nanny. It just seemed like something posh people do, something completely out of reach. Certainly for me, but times have really changed. And with nurseries, childminders and wraparound care, costs can really mount. And just imagine the peace of mind of having one person who your kids love, who you can rely on implicitly to look after your child in your home, someone who can handle school pickups, help with homework, sort dinner, and help the kids wind down. So you can finish your work guilt-free and come home to peace and serenity and be totally present with your kids. If I was to have another baby, which, I definitely won't be because I bought a dog instead, I would be considering nannies as an option. The flexibility, the simplicity, having one person you can fully trust.
I hear you. Shout out to the dog parents, me included. I need that in my life now. Koru Kids has full and part-time nannies that can work when your family actually needs them. Their nannies are vetted and trained, and they work all across the UK, so they will be where you are at. So why not have a look at their website, korukids.co.uk. It is free to search, and you can see what the cost difference is and whether it's a good fit for you. korukids.co.uk. That's KORU kids.co.uk. Something happened last Friday. So every Friday we pick up a couple of our friends from school because, side note, their workplaces have 5-day return to work office mandates, but that's another podcast. Anyway, so we pick them up on Fridays, and often we'll take them to ice cream. So we went for ice cream, and her friend is 10, like my eldest. And normally we sit there, we eat our ice cream, and then they go and play in the soft play with the little ones. Cool. As now, she's got a phone. She's got a new phone. She got like the day before. So she's sitting there on Instagram, 10 years old, on Instagram, scrolling, right? Not eating her ice cream, not engaging with anyone else. And I'm sitting there looking at her thinking, deep breaths. But ultimately, I just said, can you put your phone away? And she put her phone away. And she wasn't happy about it, but she put her phone away. And I think back and think, was that the right thing to do? Like, could I have been more curious about that? Or was it just put your phone away? You know, this is kind of rude behavior. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, obviously, like it's fine to say, look, this isn't the time and place, but you know, I like that, being that curious. That's always an opportunity. You know, I always say to parents and teachers, and you know, every day is an opportunity to be curious, but also help your young people think critically. You know, critical thinking, we'll get onto this later. Critical thinking, I feel, is a superpower for young people. It's about helping them think and process and analyze what they're doing, and being curious to do that. So, oh, like what you're watching, you know, what do you like about it? Having that interest is always an opportunity to gain a little bit of knowledge from them, but also it's about creating that environment for conversation. Because that comes from being curious. Oh, what do you think? Oh, what do you like about that? It's like, you know, parents will say to me, you know, I don't get they're just watching someone on YouTube playing Minecraft. I don't understand it. It's mind numbing. You know, why do they do that? And I would say, well, ask them why. Sit down with them. You know, what do you gain from this? And you know, and they'll tell you loads. It's just like someone that plays golf. You know, if I don't play golf, and watching golf on the TV, I can't think of anything more boring. But for people that do play golf, they will love it. They'll watch it for hours. Does that make sense? So it's like, well, they are gaining something. They're into it. And if you have an interest in that and you are curious, like, what's all this about? Come on, educate me. That then brings you onto conversations about other things that you can help them with. So it's opening that door.
I mean, I know women who watch people squeezing spots on the internet for hours.
Yeah.
So,
are they your friends, Jolie?
They're my friends. Yeah, these are my friends. Do your kids call you a boomer, Richard?
No, they don't, but they probably would do. No, they don't generally. I've heard that before.
Yeah, I get that all the time from my kids. If I say, what is that? They go, oh, you're such a boomer.
Yeah, they're a little bit older now. They would, if they was in their teenage years, younger, yeah, then that would be like assassinated all the time. Yeah. But they're a little bit older now. So like, you know, when you said earlier about they pull themselves away. Fortunately, I'm in that situation where certainly for my two like men children, you know, like they're like, we've got like a really good best friend relationship, so it's more equal with that. But yeah, if I was younger, I'd be like, that would happen all the time.
My eldest started giving me the look now. She doesn't even say anything, just like your old look, sort of like,
yeah,
just like, don't look at me like that. Yeah. So 3 steps. So is the first mindset, is that?
Yeah. So my 3-step approach. So that's broken down into mindset, creating the right environment, and how you get the conversation going. So the mindset was what I shared earlier. The mindset is us. If we want to help young people, like, how are we going to do that? Where's our head at? And having the right headspace is important. And that's that. Be open, be positive, be curious. Going into it with that being curious, you know, like, I want to learn from you. I'm not here to judge you, and I'm not going to respond, you know, I'm going to respond in a helpful way. So that's like step 1 is them 3 things. So The second one is the environment. So this is more in like an educational setting or in, like schools or people that spend time with young people, not so much at home. It's really important if you're going to engage with young people. So my sessions are generally, when we're running our Boys to Men program, it's usually working with groups of boys. Again, it's different ages, primary, secondary, and higher education. But they change in their length of time, and the conversations change depending on their age. But they're all very similar. It's usually small groups of boys, 12 to 15. And creating that environment is really important. And what I mean by that is I make sure that they know that this isn't a lesson. It's not a test. There's no right or wrong answers. I'm not here just to hear the things that you want me to hear. For example, kids in school, they're great at saying all the right things. They can tell you what they should do, or what they shouldn't do, but then they'll go off and do the complete opposite. So I address that right at the start, especially when like the online aspect of their life. So I say to boys, that this isn't a test. I'm here to learn from you as much as you're here to learn from me. There's no right or wrong answers. And again, that's really important, where they know that, okay, this is a safe, open space to talk about their life and talk about the things that we're going to address with them. And, I generally, when I have the opportunity, take that one step further. So I'll say to a school, like, can you like get all the chairs and tables out the room? Because I don't even want it to look like a classroom. I don't want people sitting in rows where there's got people behind them, because for a young person that may have something really amazing to say, feeling that someone's watching them from behind, that can shut them down. They won't even say that.
Yeah.
So again, it's like I try to create this environment that's just really open, relaxed, just like a circle of chairs maybe, or room for them to move around where we may do some activities. And it's like not school. It's not school at all. This is a change. So it's important that they know this is a safe environment to talk. So that's step 2, is creating that environment where they're not on the spot. They're not here just to tell the right things. It's like, no, it's okay to disagree with me. It's okay to say, no, I don't agree with that. It's okay to challenge, as long as it's in a respectful way. We can challenge each other. And then the last step is actually how we engage, how we open them up to conversation. So they'll have a process to that as well. And again, this process has developed over 25 years of doing it all wrong loads of times and thinking that didn't work. But this is what works for me. So I use this analogy when I'm talking to professionals that work with young people. It's a bit like going to the gym, which I'm sure you do all the time.
Yeah, we're gym bros, aren't we, Elliot?
Yeah, absolutely.
Couple times a week.
Yeah. So it's a bit like going to the gym. You don't walk in the gym and you don't pick up the most heaviest weight straight away. Otherwise you're just going to like rip a muscle. You're going to be injured. You go to the gym, you warm up. You get on a treadmill, you do a little bit of whatever, you warm up. And then when you've warmed up, then you put yourself under a little bit more pressure. So I have that approach when I work with young people. So if we're looking at a topic that I know is going to be quite a challenging topic, but an important topic to discuss, could be about their opinions on life, the things they struggle with, their insecurities, how stereotypes impact them. We know we're going to have some quite challenging conversations that could be quite hard for them. My approach is I got to get these lads warmed up to this conversation. Mm-hmm. I've got to make it safe for them to want to engage and start talking. And to do that, again, I have a process. Now, I'm going to go through that process with you guys. We're going to do it in real time, if that's all right.
Yeah, you're going to warm us up.
I'm going to warm you up.
Warm us up.
And the reason why I say that is like and this goes for anyone that works with young people. As I said earlier, like I'm older than them. My job when I work with young people is to get them to engage with each other. I'm there to facilitate conversation. But my ultimate job is I want them talking to each other about these topics. I want them to share their own experience with each other. Because if I say, oh, look, guys, it's okay to be worried about stuff. It's okay to be insecure. Like, okay, that's a good message for them to hear. But it's going to be far more relatable if I can get a 14-year-old boy to say to another 14-year-old boy, I worry about that. Because that's like, okay. So again, it's all about getting them warmed up. So should we give it a go?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. So
I'm quite cold, I'll warn you.
Okay, well, I'll warm you up. So the first thing I do when I work with young people, as I said, we have a conversation, make sure they know it's a safe environment, make it a relaxed environment, and then we jump into it. So the first thing I want to do when I work with young people is I want to find out their first thoughts. So again, that goes back to being curious. I want to find out what they think it is to be a man. We're here to talk about manhood. We're here to talk about masculinity. Again, not to promote a type of masculinity, but we're here today or tomorrow or how many times I'm going to spend time with them. We're here to give you the freedom of what you think it means to be a man. What do you want to be? So to do that, I need to find out what their first thoughts are. Okay?
Yeah.
So to do that, I do an activity. It's called Labels and Layers. And it's split into two halves. So the labels part, which we're going to do right now, is I ask them a simple question. Now, all they need to do this is a piece of paper and a pen. Have you got a piece of paper and a pen in front of you?
Absolutely,
Pen,
yeah.
Awesome.
paper.
Okay. So I just want to confirm, I mean, I hope they will believe us. We haven't preempted this, no?
No.
You don't know what I'm going to say right now.
No
Okay.
rehearsals.
Please believe us. So I asked them a question. So they've all got a Post-it note and a pen in front of them. And the reason why they've got a Post-it note is they write their word down. They come stick it on the wall. We're not going to do that. So you're just going to do it on a piece of paper. So I asked them a question. So I want you to write down one word, your first word that comes to mind. And that's what you're about to do. First word that comes to mind when you hear the term a real man. What's a real man? Put your mind in the mind of a 15-year-old boy. That will help you. So what do you think they would say? One word.
What a 15-year-old boy would say, or what I would say?
I'd go with a 15-year-old boy. Try to relate to them. We'll see how spot on you get. See how close you get. I'll say first word that comes to mind when you hear the term a real man, and they write down one word.
Okay, we're writing it down. We're not saying it.
You've both written it down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's hold your words up.
Can you see that?
Okay.
Yeah,
My writing's not
we've both
great.
gone for a similar thing.
Muscles strong. Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah, so well done. You passed the test. So at that point,
15-year-old boys. Yay.
at that point, I have a range of Post-it notes. Strong, Elliot, you get an extra house point for this. Strong is the most common one I hear, but I get lots of others. So
I am a 15-year-old boy underneath.
yeah,
really.
as we all are. So I get strong, I get muscles. They're very common. Very visual, stereotypical traits. So it's strong, it's brave, it's tough, it's muscles, it's ripped, it's six-pack, it's, the things that you would assume. Very stereotypical, very visual versions of what they think a man is. So that's our starting point. And the reason why it's called labels is they're the labels that, one, we put on ourselves, and they're the labels that we quite often associate to being a man. You got to be big, you got to be strong, you got to have muscles. So then that's, again, they write it on a Post-it note, they stick it, they run up on the wall, so they're moving around, they're like, oh, this is quite fun. They stick it on the wall, they all go back and sit down and we go through the words and we talk about it. So I asked them their opinions, oh, you said strong. What did you mean? Did you mean physically strong or mentally strong? So it just opens up that conversation with them.
Oh, nice.
And then we can start to, okay. So we start to talk about their words. Oh, do you have to be strong all the time? Or can women be strong? Or muscles, do you have, is that a requirement? What defines physical strength? It's really genetics. It's not all about, I may get a few of them out to do like an arm wrestle. Well, why did you win? You're both men or boys. Oh, because he's bigger than me. So it's again to get them to think about critical thinking. So, actually, strength really just comes down to our genetics. We're all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
But it opens up the conversation. Then we move on to round two. So we have that chat may be like 5 or 10 minutes. They go, oh, this is good. This is good. They start to feel comfortable. This is the warm up. And then we go, right, let's do round two. So we'll do round two now. So flip your piece of paper over or, we'll go around again. So the second thing I asked them is I say, okay, so we're going to change the question. So first word that comes to mind when you hear the term a good man. What's a good man? It's basically what makes a good human.
Am I meant to be a 15-year-old boy when I'm answering this?
Won't matter for this because you'll be the same. It's the same answers for a 10-year-old to I've done this in staff training. It's exactly the same. So don't worry. So what makes a good man? Elliot?
I've got what I think they would say: reliable.
Okay, yep, that comes up.
I just said kind.
Kind, that always comes up as well. So this is now the layers. So I have a group of words: reliable, kind, compassionate, respectful, loving, caring. Not words that you would usually associate a group of 14 or 15-year-old boys are going to say, like within 10 minutes of me spending time with them. Because in some cases, they're sitting there with their arms crossed, like, what's all this about? I'm not, I'm not going to, I'm very guarded. But in 10 minutes time, they're talking about words that are like, wow, like, okay, like that's really reassuring.
Yeah.
And again, the reason why I do that, it's like, it shows them that actually, there are labels, like we've got to be big, strong and tough. And by the way, them words that we start off with, none of them are bad forms of masculinity. Like being strong is not bad. Being brave is not bad.
Yeah.
But again, it's showing them that it's not the only requirement. Us men, and this is where we tie it into, it's just humans. We're a bit more complex than that. And they're now sharing all these really positive, and these are all their inequalities, by the way. None of these have got anything to do with muscles or six packs. They're to do with how they communicate, their inequalities. They're being compassionate, respectful, being reliable, being helpful, being supportive. These are words that come up. And again, it's right at the start. It's like we are far more complex than just muscles. And actually, when we look at all these words, we've now got all these Post-it notes. These are the words that are actually going to define you as young men. These are going to shape your interactions with others. Being strong will help you in certain situations. Being tough is going to help you in certain situations, or brave. But actually, it's these qualities of being a good person. These are going to help you daily. Being kind, being respectful, being supportive. They're the ones that are going to shape your interactions and relationships with other people.
Yeah.
So
Richard, do you recommend that parents can do this kind of activity with their kids as well?
Yeah, again, it's just like it gets out the obvious. Like, oh, we've got to be big and strong. Okay, well, but we're a bit more than that. And again, then you can talk to them about what these look like in real life. Why these qualities are important. How are they shaping your future? How are they shaping your friendships and interactions? And it just gives you the opportunity then to have some really in-depth conversations with them. At this point, they're warmed up. Now they're like, well, actually, yeah, no, that's really important, because if I'm in a relationship or if I'm going to a job interview, whatever their age is, then they're starting to think about their interactions with other people, about being a good person.
Yeah.
And that's just like one example of getting the conversation going, but in a fun way.
Yeah. And it's really important. I've seen, with my work with men as well, when you curate space, when you actually say, we've got a couple of hours, we're going to talk about this stuff, and you play games like this and have interactive elements to it. As you said, you're surprised of what people come out with, right? Because they come into the room and they're quite guarded, unsure, not quite sure who you are, how to trust you, etc. But these things are there underneath, and it's about how do we, stay curious, create the environment, and then open up the conversation. And these things come out, which we didn't know were going to be there, but they're inside all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and again, it's just making them feel comfortable. And then as we go through our program, that's the sort of approach that we have. It's like our program is basically split into two halves. The first half is all about them. So all the conversations, that's just one of them, is all about helping them understand who they are in a safe way, thinking about the things, like I said, their perception on manhood or masculinity. We can talk about stereotypes and how that impacts them daily or in the future. We talk about their emotions, their insecurities, their feelings. It's all centered around them. Because again, it's about building that emotional literacy, giving that an opportunity to look inwards, like, who am I and who do I want to be? And giving them that freedom to think, actually, yeah, there's not one way to be a man. Once we've done that, the second half of our program is we then look at other people. So we look at other people they see on the internet. We look at how they communicate with their friends. We look at how they communicate in relationships. We bring in like allyship and issues related to sexual harassment, obviously with the older boys. And again, all of this is a process, because if we want ultimately young people to have healthy futures, healthy relationships, be in healthy relationships, the only way that we do that is by making them feel comfortable with themselves.
Yeah.
So you've probably heard of the term before, hurt people hurt. And the reason why I say that is if you've got someone that's not comfortable in their own skin, if you've got someone that is struggling with their identity, or they are hiding their insecurities, or they're struggling to ask for help, that will come out in their interactions with other people. So again, it's about working, it's that self-work first. It's about giving them that opportunity to feel a bit more confident in who they are and who they're around and who they surround themselves with. And that way, then you can start to, how can this apply in their future? You know, just talking about their future, or they're talking about how to have a healthy relationship, but they're not happy with themselves. That's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our approach. And these conversations allow them to think about these qualities that they have inside them. And it's all about lifting them up. No, actually, I know what it takes to be a really good person. And that reflects in later on in life when they start to have relationships with others.
We talk a lot on this podcast about the division between girls and boys and how that's getting more and more polarized and divided. And just those questions that you ask boys in those sessions, I was just thinking about how that could work if you had girls and boys in the same room. I was once asked to deliver a session at my kids' primary school about gender biases, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I went in and gave it a good crack, and it was a mix of boys and girls in the room. It was so interesting. I found it absolutely fascinating, like the things that they came out with, and how some of them really went on a journey during that session, and others I got to the end and it was like that nothing had happened at all. It just didn't resonate with them whatsoever. But how you could do something very basic like that in a primary school with girls and boys and help them see these stereotypes that they're falling
Absolutely.
into.
Yeah, we always promote that. Obviously, I'm working with boys because it's, you know, boys will only open up to a certain extent when there's only boys in the room, you know. So these conversations you don't get as deep if there's girls in the room, let's just face it. But no, all of these work across all genders, and that's what we promote. That we like, you know, you can open these conversations up to other young people in school, and that's something we always promote. You know, when we work with boys, we always make sure we have a staff member in the room with us, not to oversee, but to take part in the session. So that's one thing that we've started to do recently is we'll say to a school that we're going to be working with a group of boys. Can you invite a staff member to join us? When possible, it's not always in primary, but easier in secondary, a male member of staff that the boys relate to. It's usually the PE teacher.
Yeah.
And that's for two reasons. One is that we want that member of staff they're not watching. They're one of the lads. They take part in all these activities, discussions. So the one reason is it gives them the opportunity to be witness to these conversations. It gives them the opportunity to steal all these ideas and run them in school after. And it also gives them the opportunity to hear what these boys are saying. Yeah. Because sometimes the conversations I'm having, like boys will say, I've never had this conversation before. So for sometimes that staff is like, wow, I didn't even know that they've got this much weight on them. Yeah. So that gives them an idea to support. But it's also so they can now start to implement these ideas in school afterwards. So having all these conversations with girls and doing these fun activities with girls as well, it brings everyone into the conversation. And again, it now, because when we work with boys, we want to have the opportunity to get them to think about the other half of the school, the girls as well. So we promote all of these things, you know, it's open these conversations up to everyone and share the results. And again, it brings, because I'll say to boys, you know, in fact, this is something I promote to schools after we work with them. I say, right, one thing you can do is ask all the boys one question. So set up like a Google form or something like that you can just send out to everyone. Ask the boys one question and ask all the girls another question. So you ask all the boys, what's one thing you wish girls knew about you? And you ask the girls, what's one thing you wish all the boys knew about you? Yeah. And you gather that data and you do an assembly on it. And this is like really powerful. So the boys will quite often say, because I'd ask the boys in my session, what do you wish girls knew about you? And they usually come up with things like, I wish girls knew we had feelings. I wish girls knew we had emotions. I wish girls knew we didn't always want to be in charge. And we don't know all the answers.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, wow, yeah, that's really important that girls know that. And when we ask girls, because I work with girls as well in other areas, other programs that I deliver, I'll ask girls the same. And a very common one that I hear from girls is, and you may relate to this, Jolie, girls always say, I wish boys acted like they do when they're on their own with us than they do when their mates are around.
Yeah.
And girls will say, because when we talk to boys, it's like one-to-one or just like a few of them, they're always really kind and sweet. But when their mates turn up, they turn into like, fill in the blank. They turn into idiots.
Yeah.
Because again, that performance comes out, of how they should act. And again, that's really important for boys to hear that, like girls, they don't always want to be impressed by your silliness or so it just opens up their perspective of
each
other. And again, they bring that into their everyday interactions with each other as well.
This is incredible, Richard. And I think so many tips to take away for myself. We do this podcast for others, but for ourselves as well.
Yeah.
So many things I'm going to think about when my kids get home from school today. Definitely being more curious about what they do. And I really like the activity, actually, like writing down the words.
Yeah.
And then reflecting on them, and just I think I might try and do that over the weekend.
Give it a go.
Eldest, definitely.
I used to ask them to shout it out, but then you get an influence because everyone starts to say the same thing. So that's why I asked you to write it down and not say it, because that influences your reaction.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. I want to ask you about, we have a lot of conversations about boys and some of the challenges they're facing. You've addressed some of them as well, and obviously you see them all the time. So what would you say is the thing that you feel like boys need from their parents and the older adults in their life?
Yeah, it's them three things: be open, be positive, be curious. It's just, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to know that we're not here to judge them, tell them what to do. And it's just whenever possible is just trying to engage in their conversation, asking them about their life, asking them about the things they enjoy, asking them about the things they are worried about. And it's just engaging in, all this is about conversation. And, again, that be prepared to hear things you don't want to hear, be prepared to hear things, I don't really agree with that. But again, it's trying not to be reactive and like, okay, so what made you say that? Or why are you worried about that? It's just them. I would just say them three things: be open, be positive, and definitely be curious. Because then they start to see that, actually, the people around me, they actually care about me.
Yeah.
And then we become them like safe people. And then that they relate to that when they need help.
And I like the warm up of that as well, because I have two children, one who barely speaks and it's impossible to get anything out of him, and one who doesn't shut up and tells me everything.
Yeah.
And the one who barely speaks, I'll say, so how, I'll try and ask him questions and he won't tell me anything. And then I'll go in with something like, so what did you have for lunch today? Or like, who did you hang out with the most? And then slowly you feel like you can every so often drag something out of him that's, not tedious.
Because as soon as you feel like that, as soon as they feel like that you're about to school them on something, you're trying to get, they're just shut down. So, it's coming in a different approach. It's just asking them questions. Oh, what do you think about that? What's your view on that? Or what made you say that?
Yeah.
And then when they feel listened to, they're going to be far more responsive. When you go, well, actually, like, is that the most healthiest approach? Or, obviously it depends on the context of the conversation. But as soon as they feel like you're about to tell them how to think, you lose them.
And it's amazing what kids don't tell you. So, every day I pick up my daughter. Well, how was school? It was okay. What did you do? I can't remember.
Not a lot. And
then on Wednesday, we got an email from the school teacher saying, the kids are doing a cornet performance. They've been learning the cornet. It's like a trombone all term. Do you want to come in on Friday? And I was like, did you not tell me you've been learning this instrument every day at school? I've asked you what you've been doing. You said nothing. You've been learning a whole bloody instrument.
Yeah.
And there's a school assembly on it on Friday. Like, what the hell? So, these tools for opening up the conversation is really, really good. But Richard, where can people find you? What's coming up for you in 2026?
Yeah, so they can find me, anyone that spends time on LinkedIn. That's just by my name, Richard Pomfrett. Find me on LinkedIn. Please connect with me, follow me. That's an easy place to find out a little bit more about our work. So I've got 2 websites, our Boys to Men work, again, solely working with boys, primary, secondary and higher education. The best place would be our website, which is www.boys with a Z, -2-men.org.uk. That will take you to links about our work and how you can contact me, and the things that I spoke about right at the start through my other side of my work, was called the Stay Safe Initiative. That's the work related to bullying, the online world and peer mentoring, is the staysafeinitiative.org.uk.
Perfect. Can I just say before you go, I have really enjoyed hanging out with 2 people who say girls.
Oh, right. That's probably my Essex accent, maybe.
Elliot does it too. Girls.
I don't live in Essex anymore, but I can't get rid of the twang. Girls.
We love a good accent on this podcast. We do.
All right,
we love
brilliant.
a good accent.
Well, thanks for that.
Cheers, Richard. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Thank you, Richard. See you.
So much. Cheers.